any student's primary reason for medical unfitness are usually initial medical unfitness are usually um, color vision test. That is one. Second is recently we came to know that do you remember the exact moment when you decided that you want to become a pilot? That exact moment, the surroundings, anything.
So there's a moment when I decided that I want to become a pilot, and there was another moment where I took action.
Yeah.
So these are like the two moments I would like to separate.
The light bulb when you're like, I want to become a pilot. In that moment, you were certain and there was no ambiguity that should I or should I not.
So there are two moments, okay? The number two moment, which I'll be sharing today, is when I was about to complete my engineering and we bought a new apartment at the time. So the renovation work was going on. And, there are a lot of marble shops near the airport. And I happened to be at one of these shop and a Jet Airways aircraft just flew over me. It would barely be around 200 feet above us. And I just saw up in the sky. And that moment, I was like, this is something which I wanted to do for a long period of time. And now I'm done with my engineering. And it's time to ask my dad whether I can do it or no. I had decided that I want to become a pilot, but after my 12th, due to family, the finances and all of those things, I didn't pursue it. But right after my engineering, that was the moment. And I could feel the engine, the noise of the engine right now as well. And it just flew over my head. And I was like, this is what I want to do. I went home. I directly started researching. And then the cadet pilot program option was there and the conventional option was there. So I spoke to my dad that I want to become a pilot and now I have done everything. The graduation is done. So I feel I'm ready. And then, earlier how it used to be that there were very few jobs available for pilots. So very selected few who have contacts would be a part of the airline. But now things have changed. The airline vacancy comes out every 6 months, I would say. Most likely.
6 months or a year.
Yeah. So I've been seeing the pattern since last 3 years. It's been at least one vacancy in those 6 months. But earlier it was not like that. So my dad was a bit hesitant to spend such a huge amount on the training. And that's when I researched about the cadet pilot program and showed him that this is the pathway which would be beneficial for us as it has a job assurance. And he took it a bit lightly. That's what I was sensing.
Mm-hmm.
And he told, okay, once you clear the interview, then we'll think about it. So that was something which was a green light for me. And I gave my 100% in the preparation. And I directly applied on the website for the cadet pilot program. And as soon as I applied, within 2 weeks, there was the selection round, the maths and physics exam, the English test, psychometry adapt, GDPI. So I had only 2 weeks to prepare for the cadet pilot program interview. And I knew that if I would not clear this interview, then this dream would not be fulfilled. So I started studying day and night to prepare for this interview. Reached out a couple of people with no hope. So I just started studying by myself and then took assistance from few people whom I know and then went to the selection round which happened in Delhi. And after 2 weeks, got a email that I have been successfully selected in the cadet pilot program. So this date is your LOI signing date and you can come along with one of your relative.
Right.
And once the results were out, I told my dad, okay, this is done. I'm selected into the Cadet pilot program, and my dad couldn't believe it. He wanted to check if this is legit or is it some kind of scam. So he contacted a couple of people whom he knew that were part of the aviation, and they all told, okay, it's legit. And then I remember me and my dad, we went to Delhi for that LOI signing, and he was also happy about it. And that's how the dream was converted into a reality. It was the start of the dream, but now, yeah, I'm living the dream as an A320 pilot.
Right. Absolutely. That's great. So each one of us, everyone who's flying right now in an airline had that moment in some or the other place. Right. But then before making that dream come true, there's a whole process of doing so many things one after the other. We have spoken about those things repeatedly on this podcast. At the same time, there's new viewers that come to view this podcast, so this is for them. And we'll be discussing about how to become a pilot and why to become a pilot or why not to become a pilot, whether pilot training is a good field for you or not, and all of those things we'll be discussing in this podcast. What's up? Welcome back to India's #1 pilot podcast. Thank you for watching, viewing and listening. Thank you for your subscribership, and if you've been watching for so many years, we really appreciate you. And if you're new to the channel, I'm Nilay Thakare.
I'm Winged Engineer.
Yeah.
We both are pilots on the Airbus 320.
Exactly. Yeah. We are first officers on the Airbus 320. We have been flying for a couple of years on the 320. And we have gone through this process in last few years, and we'll be here to share our experience. And we are here to share the journey with you and what are the difficulties that you may have to overcome or you may not have to overcome. Okay. So we'll lay down the pathway to become a pilot in this podcast.
Yes, and more importantly, every year there are some or the other changes in the process of becoming a pilot. So if you're serious about becoming a pilot, make sure you watch this podcast until the end so that we cover up all the changes which have been implemented in the year 2026 for your roadmap to become a pilot.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because there are changes. This is how to become a pilot in 2026. That is what this podcast is about. Winged Engineer. So if you were to start your pilot training today and you decided that day when you decided in that marble shop when the airplane flew over you, if you are in that moment today, what would be your first step?
So with all the experience I have now, if I were to make a decision, like the first step at that point of time would be approaching a mentor for my flight training, followed by the DGCA Class 2 Medicals, which would be the first step. And then the journey begins.
Absolutely.
So that would be the first step to know whether I am eligible to become a pilot or no. Because if Class 2 medicals are done, if you have the Class 2 medical assessment, then you're pretty sure that you will be able to clear Class 1 as well. So first step would be DGCA Class 2 medicals.
Okay. I've just pulled this up. So Class 2 initial medical. What does Class 2 initial medical consist of? First of all, you've got someone who decides to become a pilot has to get a PMR number from DGCA. It is Permanent Medical Record Number. Permanent Medical Record Number is for a lifetime of a pilot, and anything that is part of that PMR remains as a record with the DGCA until you are a pilot. So that is what it is, and which is generated on EGCA website. So if you go to DGCA Medical Initial, and then there is the process. It's pretty straightforward. If not, then if you want any help with, then CNTAA people can guide you with the same, that how to create an EGCA PMR file. Okay, once you do that, then get an appointment with Class 2 medical doctor, or preferably a Class 1 medical officer. a DGCA Class 1 Aviation Medical Officer. And thereafter, they'll prescribe you with certain tests. I have the list pulled up for the tests right here, and I'll list it down for you. Initial medical: blood, hemoglobin percentage, TLC, DLC, blood sugar, fasting, and PP, HbA1c. LFT is liver function test, blood urea, serum creatine, serum uric acid, lipid profile, urine, ECG, X-ray, chest PA view, pure tone audiometry, which is for the hearing, USG abdomen and pelvis, dilated fundus examination for the eye, and if BMI is over 30, then blood sugar and more tests are added to it. Okay, so that is fasting PP. So that is all for the initial medical. If any of these have markers beyond the acceptable limits, then more tests are to be conducted. The primarily what we have seen for CNTAA students or any students, primary reason for medical unfitness are usually initial medical unfitness are usually color vision test. That is one. Second is recently we came to know that LASIK is okay with respect to DGCA, but there is a surgery called as ICL,
which is new.
Which is new for the eye. That is not okay with the DGCA. So if any one of you is considering to become a pilot and considering the LASIK done, that may be okay before starting the pilot career, but ICL is a gray area as of now.
Because it's new and there's not enough research to support that according to DGCA. But down the line, it will be approved, but right now it's not.
Yeah. Down the line, it may be. And it's considered to be, I think, more advanced surgery than the LASIK. But it is not accepted right now. So if you are considering to become a pilot, ICL surgery may not be the best option. To be honest, wearing spectacles is the best way forward, I think. But if someone is struggling with wearing spectacles or any other issues are there because of wearing spectacles, then LASIK may be the option. And that said, safest is wearing spectacles.
Yeah, because every human eye is different. Even after you do a LASIK, there's not 100% guarantee that the vision will be 100% accurate. There can be some complication depending upon the health of the retina and the thickness of the retina. So it's better to consult an aviation medical examiner before undergoing a LASIK, and then only go for LASIK. Otherwise, you can use contact lenses or you can use spectacles like I do. Yeah.
So a quick glance over the first step. First step is medical class 2. Generate a PMR with EGCA, and thereafter get an appointment with class 1, class 2 medical officer, and thereafter you go on to the next stage. So right after you get the class 2 assessment, get an appointment for class 1. Class 1 appointments may be backlagged, like there is sometimes a waiting for class 1. It can be 3 months, 6 months or something like that. If you have a preference of city to do your class 1 medical in, it's generally done in Mumbai, Nanavati, Delhi, AFCME. There is Air Force Center in Bangalore, and non-Air Force centers are also there in Bangalore.
Bangalore is Apollo.
Okay, Apollo,
and
not
you
Air
have
Force.
In Jorhat Air Force.
Jorhat Air Force, right? Jorhat Air Force, and then there is Chennai is also there.
Maybe you have a list of
list of class
website.
class 1 medical centers is there on the DGCA website. You can book an appointment whenever it is available there. Okay. That's about it. Let's move on to the next step. And what will be the next step after getting class 2 medical assessments?
So now the next step is very important, which is your DGCA Ground exams. So you need to clear your DGCA Ground exams. You need to start preparing for it. So now the next step goes hand in hand. First of all is you apply for your computer number. You either study by yourself for DGCA exams, or you join a good ground school to study for your DGCA exams. And you also simultaneously apply for your class 1 medicals if your class 2 assessment have been uploaded on the EGCA website. So you have to keep on checking the EGCA website whether the assessment has been uploaded or no. So the next step consists of 3 subparts: class 1 medical appointment, computer number application, and preparing for DGCA exams.
Yeah, absolutely. So computer number application, for some boards it requires verification from the board that you have done your 10+2 with physics, maths and English. And for boards as CBSE board, it does take the input from the DG locker, and that is self-verification. So it's a relatively quicker process if CBSE board is there, and if it is the state board or anything else, there has to be a verification process done, which takes roughly about 15 days to 3 weeks for most boards. Once that is there, then okay, all right. This episode is brought to you by CNTAA, is sponsored by CNTAA. CNTAA is online and offline training for the DGCA exams. At CNTAA, if you are starting with CNTAA, then the computer number application assistance is provided, which is the next step, the computer number application. And once you have the board verification, then you can do the computer number application with the help of CNTAA or by yourself if you are studying by yourself, or whatever. So once the computer number application is done, it takes roughly about 45 days to 2 months for the computer number to be generated. Now, in the meanwhile, we don't just sit around, because whatever things that can be done simultaneously need to be done simultaneously, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
In the meanwhile, you are in the momentum of studying because of doing your 12th just now or doing your engineering just now. So continue that momentum and use that momentum into studying DGCA. Now you can either, like Winged Engineer said, that you can either join ground classes for the same. We highly recommend CNTAA. But if not, if you want to study by yourself, that's also okay. But don't lose that momentum.
So mostly what I have observed is when people or when students try to study by themselves. So first of all, they're not aware about the syllabus. They're not aware about what MCQ questions will be asked in the exam, like what level or what difficulty level. And then they gather all the information, they order some books online, they gather information from the online aviation forums. And then, when you take advice from multiple people, you get multiple inputs from different people, and then you get confused what to study, what not to study. And then you are like, okay, now I have to study so many books, so many notes different people have shared with me. So they go through all of those things. But then when they go in the exam, then they are not able to clear it. I'm not saying that you will not be able to clear it. I'm saying most of them are not able to clear in the first attempt.
Right.
And then again they sit and then they know the syllabus or the pattern.
A failure can break the momentum of
Yes.
studying. Instead, just get it done from the right place and pass it through, where you understand the concepts, you get initiated into aviation, you understand the layout of aviation, what is my career going to look like, and what are the concepts we will be touching throughout our career and in the initial phases of the training. And also you learn with respect to the exam perspective. First is the concepts, next is the exam perspective. The combination of these actually lead to great results in the DGCA exams, and also help throughout the pilot career during flight training and moving on. So that is there, and as a result of which our last highest result at CNTAA was 99 in navigation out of 100.
Yeah.
One Shalwani. Kudos to One Shalwani. Great job. Yeah. If you have aspirations like that, we would love to welcome you at CNTAA. Now, you mentioned DGCA syllabus. Explain DGCA exams in 1 minute and include DGCA syllabus.
So DGCA exams are the exams which are required for you to get a CPL. The subject consists of aviation meteorology, air regulations, air navigation, technical specific, and technical general. So these are the 5 subjects you need to clear if you're planning to do your flight training from India. If you plan to do it from abroad, you need to give your aviation meteorology, air regulation, and air navigation.
Absolutely.
And the other exam, apart from DGC exams, is an RTR, which is also a part of DGC now.
Yeah. It used to be WPC conducted by
Hmm.
WPC. Now it is conducted by DGCA itself. All right. Air navigation. What is air navigation?
So, air navigation is, I would say, the knowledge required to fly the aircraft from point A to point B, studying about the Earth, about the latitude, the longitudes, the rum line, the Great Circle Track, the CPPNR. So, there are a lot of permutation combination through which an aircraft fly. It's not as easy as we drive a car. There are a lot of, a car, when we drive, it's on a 2D surface. When we fly in aircrafts, it's on a 3D surface. So yeah, we need to understand how does the magnetic north works, true north works with respect to the heading, the track, the wind correction. So there are a lot of things which we learn in navigation, which eventually help us in flying the aircraft from point A to point B.
Yeah. Like when Winged Engineer said that navigation is a study of going from point A to point B. Now, how do we do that? There's essentially three parts of navigation, primarily three parts. What do we navigate with, right? So when you're going from, say, Bangalore to Goa, okay, now you would pull up your GPS, right? GPS is what? GPS is navigation with the help of radio signals. Satellites send radio signals which are received by our phones, and those phones show us the way. Lights will guide you home.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Ancient times, sailors used to do what? Sailors used to look at the stars and calculate their position with respect to stars and navigate accordingly, right? That is what it used to be, galactic navigation. What it is used to be called? Not galactic. Celestial navigation.
Oh,
It was
Celestial
called celestial navigation. Okay. So we don't look at stars and fly. Okay. I mean, you can look out and the views outside the windows, or it's something that one wouldn't have seen. Like, no doubt about it. I'm deviating from the topic, I understand, but I cannot appreciate enough the kind of skies that we get to see out
Every
of the every day if the night flight is there. And then there's shooting stars going on, and so I've heard from our friends, like Karan had mentioned that he used to regularly see the northern lights. We don't get to
because they fly over the North Pole.
Yeah. It's a regular sight for them, the ones that do the ULR routes, ultra long range routes. Yeah, for us, it's the Milky Way and all the constellations and you name it, the clear sky, because aircraft is flying at 39,000 feet, at least the ones that we fly. There is no pollution at that altitude. It's the pollution and everything, all of those suspended particles and everything that make the sky kind of muddy and not clear view is below 10,000 feet. Once we pass that 10,000, and if there is no weather and it's a clear skies day, the stars are, I mean, one would keep on looking at and get lost into it, to be honest. That's the kind of, okay, I'll bring myself back to the topic.
I mean, the day view is also fine. It's not just about the night.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's just like, do you see this? Like, I mean, this part, because we sit on the right. So the difference between this and this is like day flying is this. Like it's burning although the 320 has a good sunshade actually that one can pull up, and we do that. Sorry about that. We do that, but still there are gaps from which the sun comes. So, all right, let's get back to celestial navigation. We don't do that, but it's something to appreciate. So the GPS was navigating with what? Radio aids. Now in radio aids, we don't just navigate with GPS. You might have heard recently the GPS spoofing and the ADSB data glitch, and then the map shift and the GPS lost and all of those things, right? So what do? There are alternates. There are types of fixes. So there are VOR radials from which our IRS actually gets the position from, and multiple radio sources, right? It can be DME, it can be VOR, it can be NDB, which is pretty much obsolete now. But all of those things update the position of the aircraft. That is one way, which falls under radio aids. This is one part of air navigation study. Second, how do we navigate? Second, let's go conventional. Back in the time, what we used to do, what our parents used to do. I don't know if the Gen Z can relate with it, but okay. Let me enlighten you with this, like just a history lesson. When we were kids, millennials, if we are going on a road trip, we used to have an atlas map of a road, right? Like the whole road thing. When GPS, this is prior to Google Maps. This is 90s, okay? And then we are going from here, we're route with the sketch pen or everything. We make a right turn from here, we make a left turn from there, we make a this, okay? After these many kilometers, we take this right or left and things like that. Now this is what? This is navigation with respect to the ground references. This would be in aviation called as dead reckoning, right? So DR, dead reckoning. In our flight training, we used to do the VFR flying. Flights. VFR flying is, so IFR flying is with respect to radio aids and okay. VFR flying is dead reckoning. There is a lake. After 20 miles flying 20 miles southwest, we find a lake. Okay, lake. Now, southern shore of the lake is a checkpoint. We mark how much fuel we have and how much, where we are at. After that, we follow which track. Okay, what are the winds and correct for those winds. Like Chintan said, that what's the drift angle and what track we need to maintain. We do that, and then the next waypoint, we mark that, put it in our nav log, right? That is flying with respect to dead reckoning. What is the third thing? General navigation. General navigation is dead reckoning. Radio aids.
And how do you fly the aircraft?
Exactly. That would be flight instruments. Now, flight instruments, in order to process all this data, in order to give us references like what heading we are flying, what altitude we are flying, how much fuel we are burning, what altitude we are flying, are we in a bank or we are straight and level, we are climbing, we are descending. All of these things are given to us by instruments. So that is the third part of navigation. That would be flight instruments. Apart from that, there's two more, that is mass and balance and performance. If we were to go into detail of that, then might as well look at it at CNTAA website. Is that it about CPL navigation?
Yeah.
ATPL navigation actually goes a little bit more into depth of the performance and the multi-engine performance and the mass and balance. Mass and balance is essentially how much you can load the aircraft, what are the landing weights, and how does that affect your takeoff weight, what is the maximum zero fuel weight, and all of those things. What is the MTOW, like the structural MTOW, performance limited takeoff weights and all. It's and then what's the CG, what's the effect of CG on the aircraft, if it is aft CG, forward CG, how does it affect on the fuel consumption. All of those things would be part of mass and balance in navigation, which is there in CPL navigation as well. At the same time, it's more in detail in ATPL. That is there. Apart from that, what else? Performance. All right, performance. Have you seen those Jepson charts and different arrivals, departures, and approaches, and the missed approaches and all of those things. Those are designed with respect to, I stand corrected, not with respect to, those are designed considering the performance limitations of the aircraft. It's like if you ask an aircraft to be climbing 10,000 feet per minute after being on a missed approach, and if it doesn't comply to that, then there is a terrain next to the airport. That's not practical. No aircraft can do that unless you are flying F-22s or the Sukhois, right?
Mm-hmm.
Structured and built considering so there are categories, and accordingly those charts are made. So performance is understanding of that. Then what are the performance limitations on takeoff, and there are phases of the, yeah. Anyway, let's not get into the details by Capt.Neha Thakare. Yeah.
So that is navigation.
Right.
Then we have 4 more.
All right, meteorology. Now meteorology, you are gonna do the meteorology covering.
Yeah, if I remember. I remember the one chapter thoroughly is Indian climatology.
That
which
is, I
the
think,
most
very
important
Yeah,
chapter
yeah.
because we are because we'll be flying mostly domestic.
Yeah.
So we do fly international as well, but Indian climatology is one of the most important chapters. So you study about the weather, what in weather, different seasons, what are jet streams, then how does it affect the aircraft, how do you identify that the aircraft is, let's say, in a wind shear or a microburst. So all those things you'll be studying aviation meteorology. Now, clouds, what are different types of clouds, at what level do you find such type of clouds, which clouds are harmful to get into, which clouds are safe to get into. So all those things you study in aviation meteorology. And then you have the layers like your thermosphere, mesosphere, stratosphere, and what level do or what altitude do aircraft fly above the level, what weather do you expect there, the turbulence, how do you anticipate turbulence. So there's no way to anticipate clear air turbulence, but in general, if you have turbulence, then what are the reasons or when can you expect turbulence? All of those things.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot more to cover into it.
Absolutely.
You have ULR, DLR, all of those
There's
things.
like different weather phenomena. First is the atmosphere. How is the atmosphere around the earth? After that, what are the components of it? Then we get into what are the effects of it on the aircraft. Then we get into how to interpret and read the charts and read the meteorological reports and all of these. Then how can we use those in our advantage? What can be a threat to the flying or all of those things. And it by far, I think, is very, very relevant to what we do in real life every single day. Yeah. It's not just theoretical, like we read the meters every single day, we write and understand the ETIS every single day, then we do go over the winds aloft charts, the temperatures aloft, and then what are the wind speeds and shear factors in each of those levels, and by that we understand what are the turbulence at different levels, and that's how it continues to be. So meteorology is a very, very interesting. Indian climatology is effect of global climatology on region of India, and because we fly in India and out of India, so we cross this airspace or we fly in this airspace, we need to understand in what month, what kind of weather, if we are flying to a particular region, we are expecting. That would be meteorology. Then less used parts for us from meteorology are icing, cold weather operations. Yes, those are done when so I haven't done cold weather operations yet. You have done once. Once or twice, no? Twice, yeah. But those are not regular. Those are like we have to brush up ourselves when we would be going for cold weather operations, because there are different procedures for it and we need to understand those well enough in advance. And having read it once is not enough, but it needs to be brushed up. So that would be about meteorology. Anything else?
More you'll be studying at CNTAA.
Yeah. All right. Next would be air regulations. Air regulations, don't ask me anything. Like, I know regulations that are to be followed for the routine flights. DGCA air regulation papers, I don't know. I passed at 70. I somehow passed. But navigation is my favorite, so I scored really well in navigation. Meteorology I love, where regulations it's a law.
Yeah, in simple terms, let's say when we drive a car, there are certain rules to be followed. Same as we fly an aircraft, we do have certain rules to be followed, and that rules is a book, 500 pages.
Yeah, Capt.Neha will teach you. Capt.Neha will teach you.
So those are the rules we have to follow every day when we fly the aircraft. And in that, one of the important part I would suggest is human factors.
Yeah.
So how does human body react to the external forces?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that is one of the important part of regulation, which you will study and you'll understand if something happens in the cockpit, let's say your hypoxia, your hyperventilation, what are the symptoms, how do you treat them?
Yeah.
So those are bits and pieces of air regulations which we have told to you. More you'll be studying in the air regulation.
I think I passed regulation because of human factors, because I like human factors. Like
it is interesting and it can be relatable to the daily flying as well. I mean, we don't get that thing every day, but sometimes when, let's say, there's too much turbulence, or most likely we used to face all of those things when we used to fly the Cessnas.
Yeah.
You know, that illusions and all of those things. But when we move to a jet engine, we rarely face anything like that.
Absolutely. And when you move into airlines is the regulations are structured differently. So there are ops manuals for different airlines, and those ops manuals describe what are the regulations applicable for this kind of operation, for this particular kind of operations. We are well versed with those regulations, but the DGCA exams regulations perspective, that is a bit different. It's I mean, airspaces remain to be airspaces, and their regulations and all of those things are the same. At the same time, what is the law number and all of those things, it's necessary for exams, but in day-to-day flying it is not as much. That's about it. Ops manuals are very important for regular flight training, and we routinely go through those and revise ourselves through those. That is what it is about regulations. Next up is technical specific.
Yeah, technical specific required for the aircraft you will be training on, either Cessna 172, or let's say DA40 or the TACNAM. So before you fly the aircraft, you should know certain things about the aircraft, like what engine does it have, what are the V speeds for that aircraft, what is the max takeoff load for their MTOW for that particular aircraft, the fuel capacity, the fuel consumption. Once you know all these things, then you go on to fly the aircraft. So for that, you have to give the exam, which is called as tech specific, specific for your aircraft.
In order for any aircraft to be endorsed on your license, be it SPL, CPL or ATPL, you have to demonstrate that you have theoretical knowledge about that equipment and practical skills to operate that equipment and sufficient experience in order for that aircraft to be endorsed in a specific capacity. If it is a Cessna 172, you need to pass the basically oral exam and the written test for it, which is the technical specific paper, and a skill test for it, like GFT day by GFT night
Yeah.
and all of those things will get you that
Endorsement.
aircraft endorsed on the CPL. If it is 320, there are sim checks that need to be passed. IRPPCs are there, instrument rating and pilot proficiency checks, those are there. And apart from that, there are theoretical tests and all of those things. Once you do that, then the 320 gets endorsed on your license. Minimum experience requirements are there. So minimum experience for initial type rating is not on actual aircraft, but it is on a simulator. And then once that minimum experience requirement is met, the same goes for the endorsement. That is it. All right. Tech specific.
Tech general.
Tech general is essentially the systems, the aircraft systems, the different aircraft systems. How do those operate? How does the pressurization system? What is the power plant and all of those things? What is the electrical system?
Yeah, basically the technical aspect of aviation.
Absolutely. Then there is principles of flight. How does an aircraft fly is a part of it. That would be technical general. All right. That's it about DGCA exams. Once you pass these, the minimum passing percentage on these is 70%. But if you aim for 90, 80 plus, then yeah, 70 plus is for sure. The idea is to fundamentally understand these things, at least theoretically. And when you have understood these things fundamentally, when you actually fly, you would be able to relate its implementation into the cockpit. So that is what CNTAA always makes sure that each of the CNTAA student understands. And thereafter, it is also taught that how the question is framed on that particular subject or topic for that particular concept, so that when the DGCA exams are there, it is not for the first time, okay, I understand the concept, but I'm seeing its implementation into a question for the first time. No. So there are question banks built by Capt.Neha, Captain Pankaj, and those are provided to the students and are on the online platform CNTAAonline.in, and then students repeatedly go through those and understand those, and then the DGCA exams passing is pretty straightforward.
This is about the DGCA exams, and then we have RTR as well now.
Yeah.
So RTR, radio telephony restricted, license required to operate. Is the license required?
I have done it from Canada only. I haven't given the Indian RTR, but I'll have to soon give that one. So
yeah, it's the license to operate the radio when flying an aircraft. So yeah, we both have done the Canadian thing.
Yeah.
And
I'll have to renew it.
I've got it for 20 years. I gave the part 1, so it's valid in 2042.
Yeah. 42.
Yeah. Cool.
42 doesn't seem as far as it used to be earlier.
Yeah, I think since last 20 years, the time is flying.
Yeah.
But good thing is we are pilot.
Yeah. True. All right. So there is DGCA done. Okay. Not DGCA is not done, but DGCA exams part is done once. DGCA is never done as long as you are a pilot. So now next part is... now, this is a fork of decisions. When you get to this point, there's so many options. One option, cadet pilot, international pathway. Second option, cadet pilot, domestic pathway. Third option, conventional pathway, domestic. Fourth option, conventional pathway, international. There's so many options right here. What do we do with this? Essentially, this part is why we are repeating this podcast actually, because in this part there's a lot of changes. The dollar rate has gone up so high, and then the demand for cadet pilot programs is skyrocketing, and especially the domestic ones. And because of dollar rate being higher, the cost of training abroad has significantly increased. So the comparison between these has the landscape of that comparison has changed significantly. So let's discuss about that.
So earlier, people used to go for the cadet pilot program abroad. Like when we did our training in 2019, it was around 1 CR or something.
Yeah. Dollar rate was 68.
65. I remember the first transaction I made was around $65.
Yeah.
And now it's inching towards 95.
Right.
So that's 30 rupees more. And plus, when you see the crude oil prices have
that's
gone
like
up,
50% hike.
increase.
Yeah.
So the cost in dollars is the same, but rupee has depreciated and the cost of fuel has gone up now. So maybe the price will increase. So right now, cadet pilot program, if you see, the abroad pathway is costing around 1.3 to 1.5 CR.
Yeah.
And India, it's around 1 CR.
Yeah.
So this is about the cadet pilot program.
Correct.
Now, when we speak about the conventional pathway, just for CPL, it's around 55 to 70 lakh rupees in India. And if you go for abroad, it's around 70 lakh rupees.
Not even 55. Good flight schools in India
60,
are charging now 60
65.
plus. Yeah, 60 plus, 65 roughly about. That used to be cost of pilot training in the US back in the time with conventional pathway. Actually, even less than that, matter of the fact.
So the cost of training have gone up. So now if you are in a position where you want to select between the cadet pilot program or the conventional pilot program, first is to ask yourself, are you financially prepared? Have you discussed it with your parents that this is the amount you want to spend on your pilot training? And whatever, let's say if you're looking at a cadet pilot program for a particular airline, you look at the price structure, what they are giving, and keep 10% as a buffer for any global event.
Yeah, absolutely.
And once you are ready with the finances, that's the time to make the decision whether you want to go for the cadet or the conventional pathway program. So if you're planning, let's say if you have a budget of around 1 CR, you can go for cadet pilot program in India. But now the situation in India is such that everyone wants to go for the cadet pilot program in India. So as it is costing roughly around 1 CR now.
Yeah.
So most of the flight schools in India who provide the cadet pilot program with the airline are full.
Yeah.
So let's say like recently, one of the student who applied for the program, so their application was rejected. They didn't even get a chance to appear for the assessment.
Yeah.
So that is the situation right now. And just don't quote us on this, but this is what was one of the experience of our students. Not one, but I think many of them, right? And the price of, as we discussed, the cost of training abroad is going up. So according to me right now, if you think that you want to go for your pilot training, best bet would be to train from India conventionally if you think. And if you think you want to go for CPP, you might have to wait longer for the assessment, but eventually you will get into the program.
Absolutely. Apart from that, there are rumors of MPL program coming in. So that was roughly about 6 months ago. But if it was discussed, then it may be implemented in coming years. But right now, what's relevant to you is the conventional pathway and cadet pilot program. Those are being run the way it used to be. MPL program, when it comes into implementation, it will be in a phased manner, and that at that time we'll discuss the details about that. All right, let's move on to the flight training. Be it a conventional pathway or cadet pilot program, whichever you may choose, primary decision-making factor between cadet pilot program and conventional pathway is money. Okay, the money that you are gonna spend for your training is from your tomorrow's earning. So if you end up spending 1.5 crore, then you are spending roughly about the future income of next 5-7 years, something like that. If you are spending 1 crore, probably that period will be lesser. And that significantly affects how a person is able to, what kind of lifestyle a person is being able to carry after getting into airline. That is what it is. There is a special video on that particular topic that's made by Chintan and Winged Engineer on his channel. Go look that up. We have kind of given shout out to that video so many times because it's that well made video. I strongly feel. All right. Flight training abroad. If you're doing flight training abroad, that will be PPL, instrument rating, and CPL. There are different modules. There are multiple stages into each of these three stages, such as stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, or some would call it modules, and all of those things. Then you get CPL. Are we going to go into the detail of flight training, the whole ACS into this, or
we are not going to go into
short?
we are not going into the details of the flight training, but we'll definitely get into the requirements of getting a DGCA CPL.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need the 200 hours of flight time, out of which 100 hours should be solo PIC, and out of those 100 hours, 50 hours should be cross country. Cross country meaning position from departure to destination of more than 100 nautical miles. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, these are the major requirements.
There is one specification into this. It's like one intricacy into this. This is like, as per FAA, 50 mile plus is considered to be a cross country. But for FAA to consider it as a cross country, you need to touch down. It can be a touch and go also, but your wheels need to legally touch the runway in order for it to be counted as a cross country. As per DGCA, you can overfly the field and it is still considered as a cross country. So if you are gonna fly from the US, it has to be both of these. So it has to be more than 100 nautical miles, not just 50 miles. And you have to touch down at the destination airport. That is the requirement. That is the intricacy of this.
And there is one 300 nautical mile cross country, which is a DGCA requirement. So wherever you're going for a flight training, make sure you are aware about the DGCA requirements to get a CPL, and make sure you comply with it, because there have been instances in the past where students have gone abroad for their flight training and they didn't know what is a solo cross country, and once they come back and they all have done like 50 hours cross country, so they had to go back again and do the cross country. So never be in that situation. Now you know how to check the DGCA CPL requirement. You go onto the DGCA website and you see it.
Yeah, let's just overview this. If you fly from India, DGCA exams you have already cleared. As we come to this stage, you have already cleared those. So that's it. You don't have to give any additional papers. If you go to the US, the theoretical study is relatively lesser, but skills are very much emphasized upon. So you have to meet standards, no relaxations into it. Whatever the ACS standards, there is a document you can go on FAA website and you can look up the document called as Aircraft Certification Standards, ACS document. It will mention what are the standards for CPL, what are the standards for PPL, and how the whole flight training has to be structured. There may be some discrepancies into it with respect to Part 141 and Part 61. So Part 141 is a program that is approved by one FTO, flight training organization, by FAA for that particular flight training organization. Part 61 is as per FAA what is required for each stage. Now, you do meet the requirements of DGCA, you do meet the requirements of Part 61 or Part 61. Both requirements are met, and thereafter you get the CPL. That is what it is. Otherwise, if you just meet the FAA requirements, what happens is you will definitely get the FAA CPL. But the point about it is that would not be convertible into Indian DGCA CPL. Okay. Second, New Zealand. New Zealand DGCA exams are there for India. New Zealand has its own authority. You have to clear those exams, and those are almost similarly difficult to the DGCA exams. Okay, the same goes for Australia. The same goes for South Africa, Canadian exams are relatively easy. We both have given those. We have Canadian CPLs as well. Those are not as difficult as the DGCA exams or the New Zealand. We haven't given the New Zealand exams or the South Africa or Australia. Okay. That's about it, I think.
Yeah. So now
Flight training wise, New Zealand is good, Australia is good, Canada is good, US is good, India is okay. Indian flight schools all the flight schools are overcrowded right now for the matter of fact.
Yeah, but that is the only good option now according to the situation. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Even if it's crowded, it's taking roughly around 18 to 24 months to get the CPL. But due to this uncertain global event which is happening right now, it's better to do it in India if someone is starting at this point rather than going abroad. Because let's say if there is no problem of finances, then you can go abroad, because the cost of training can go up depending upon the global events.
Absolutely.
So if someone is on a very strict budget, then it's better to do it from India for this point of time, because there's a lot of uncertainty right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, once you get the CPL, say foreign, or complete the requirement in India for CPL, once you get the foreign CPL, you come to India, you do the conversion checks. Now, there is a constraint on the people who can do these checks. Those are called designated examiners, DE. And in US, it would be called DPE, okay, designated pilot examiners. India has DEs. Those do the GFT day, GFT night, and the cross-country checks. And once they do, then your conversion flying is done. Once the conversion flying is done, then you apply for the conversion of the CPL, whether it is multi-engine CPL or single-engine CPL or single-engine CPL and multi-engine add-on on it. Accordingly, your requirements to fly in India will vary. Then the conversion is there.
So once the conversion is done, you apply for the CPL.
Yeah.
So for application of the CPL, you go into the EGCA, you submit all the documents. Once that is done, your application is submitted. You have to check your application, the status of your application on EGCA, whether you have received any shortfall. If DGCA wants to know about certain events or certain flights or maybe certain additional documents from the flight school, they may ask you in the term of shortfall. So you check that shortfall, you reply to that shortfall, you submit the necessary documents, and within a span of 1 to 2 months, you will get your DGCA CPL.
Yeah, we cannot emphasize enough importance of diligent paperwork all throughout this. Maintaining the logbook correctly, maintaining the hours correctly, and all of those things. Because if those are not maintained correctly in accordance with the DGCA requirements, it creates a lot of problem, to be honest. So make sure that you do that when you are at this stage. Well, this is a lot of information in very short period of time. So, but we just wanted to give you an overview of this. So if you refer to this podcast one at a time, each phase at a time, even that will work. You can consider it as a checklist that, okay, during DGCA exams, this is I need to do. Before starting the pilot career, this is what I need to do. Once you get into flight training, this is what I need to do. Those are the things. We need to create a workbook on this.
Yeah, we can do that. Meanwhile, while
like
we create
at each phase, there has to be a checklist. Makes sense, right?
Yeah. So while we make the workbook, within next week, if you're watching this podcast before that, just sit with a pen and paper and note all the things down.
If anyone of you wants to help us make this workbook, let us know.
Yeah, that will be great. Let's see. You can send the workbook if you see this
or just
podcast.
let us know if it would be helpful to you, because that is more important than that. We know that is it even something that you want? Because creating that workbook is a lot of work, and we have to make sure that each thing is precise and accurate, at least to this day. So
Yeah. So now you have
the CPL.
your DGCA CPL. Now what? Now there are two options. Either you wait for CPL vacancy from the airline, or you go for type rating. Both have its own advantages and disadvantages. So now there are certain things which we are not sure about or which are not in our control. Is when the next vacancy will come out, which type of vacancy will it come out? Will it be a CPL holder vacancy or a type rated vacancy? It's not in our control and we do not know how it's gonna be. So you have to keep a threshold for yourself. Let's say the day you get your CPL, after that, how long do you want to wait to go for your type rating? Let's say 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Okay. Once you decide that time frame, then stick to it. And then you go for type rating. And now when you go for type rating, the time starts ticking. Once you have the type rating, the time starts ticking. Firstly, you can either go for Airbus 320 or the 737. The moment you get type rated, you are eligible for that particular aircraft type rated vacancy.
Even ATR is an option.
Yeah, ATR is an option. Yeah. So that's the only disadvantage of type rating. And once the 6 months have lapsed in the type rating, you need to give certain checks. And then 1 year, then 1.5, 2 years, 3 years. Once 3 years have passed, you have to do the type rating again.
You know, a good marker that I recently realized that we should consider speaking about, which type rating to do, whether 737 or A320 type rating
Or the ATR.
or the ATR. The primary factor in this, in my opinion, is age. If someone is below 28 or 27, that person can consider 737 type rating. But if someone is above the age of 27, 28, just simply go for a 320 type rating, because that's the best way to do it. Because there are airlines primarily that have like vacancies for 73s that have age limits of 30 or 32 years.
Yeah.
So after completion of type rating, a person has to have at least 3 years in order to get the job in conventional pathway.
Yeah.
And 320, if we are talking about 320, there's more number of 320s being delivered every like single quarter than
The Boeings.
the Boeings.
Yeah, because number of A320s in India is more than 500, I guess.
Yeah.
Combined.
Yeah.
All the airlines.
Yeah. So
That's a good way to decide for the type rating.
If below age of 28, then yeah, you can consider 73s. If above the age of 28, just it is ATR or this
320.
If someone is an instructor with an ATPL, then it is not a factor. Then that person can consider Boeing as well, 737s as well. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah. So that's about the type rating, the CPL vacancy and the type rated vacancy.
Yeah.
And then
The airline preparation.
Yeah.
The airline preparation, same study again. The ATPL preparation again. The everything again. And get into the detail of it. If it is a CPL vacancy, if it is a type rated vacancy, the new books, FCOM, FCTM, you name it, and the ops manuals and different documents. It's an ocean to study, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it has to be understood, and its operational effects have to be understood, and have to understand it with very limited experience on actual type. Like type rating is cool. Type rating teaches a pilot about the aircraft, but actual experience on the aircraft is very little at the time, and have to understand the operational effects of each of those procedures and importance of those procedures. And the aircraft systems are there, the procedures are there, the task sharing is there, the MCC is there. There's just a lot of things in type rating. In addition to that, in type rated vacancy, in addition to that, the CPL studies.
That is just the technical part, I would say.
Yeah.
After that, you have to study about the company.
Yeah.
Then
The HR part
part, and then the general knowledge related to aviation. Then the aviation incidents which have happened recently. And then maybe mental maths. Or to see where you stand if they ask you. Because when you fly the aircraft, you continuously do the fuel calculation, the rate of descent calculation, how many miles to go, right? So that can be asked as well. So this is a part of the personal interview, I would say, but the technical is for the written.
Right.
So firstly, you will be starting with the written exam. So as Nilay said, the DGCA exam syllabus, if you are type rated, then type rated aircraft syllabus for the written. Once you clear that written, you go on to the psychometric exam. And once you clear the psychometry, then you go for the group discussion followed by the personal interview.
Absolutely. The HR part, that's another. Then there are aptitude tests. Aptitude tests are the ones in which then there is psychometry, all of those things. To be honest, it's like a personal growth journey. The whole selection process and getting into airline is altogether a personal growth journey. Like understanding yourself, understanding your own limitations, and then understanding your own strengths, understanding your own weaknesses, and then how can we improve upon those weaknesses or operate optimally, understanding those weaknesses, how can we utilize our strengths in order for the job as a pilot. All of those things you combine and then be articulate about it in order to convey those capabilities and those competencies in words in an interview to an interviewer. And that teaches us a lot about ourselves. And when we learn that, it instills a lot of confidence and it is not a baseless confidence. It is a confidence based on the journey that you have lived and the things that you have learned, the skills that you have learned, and the experience that you have earned.
So when a person starts his or her pilot journey, they don't see the outcome. It's those 3-4 years they work on themselves, and then at the end of 4 years, they see them as an airline pilot. Once they clear each and everything successfully, each and every test cleared successfully gives them the confidence to step into that uniform and to fly that aircraft commercially.
It's also a positive reinforcement, absolutely, to keep going, to keep pushing, and to keep understanding, and to keep being a better person every single day. That's about it, guys.
Yes, and the journey doesn't end there. Once you clear the airline interview, then a new journey starts. And that's what we can discuss in the next episode as well.
So to keep it short, a bridge course. After a bridge course, then there are basically ground classes, then there are supernumeraries, then there is a base check. After that, there is supervised line flying. Once the supervised line flying is done and the final check on the supervised line flying is done, then the person becomes a released first officer. Once you are released, then you start earning as a pilot. Now with seniority and with the experience and with respect to airlines and different types of contracts, the salaries vary. So some salaries get roughly about 2 lakh rupees in hand. The gross is roughly about 2.6, 2.8 lakh
yeah.
rupees. That is the gross after deducting taxes. 2 lakh rupees is approximate what after being released a pilot earns. Salaries and EMI, that is all of a completely different topic which we'll cover in upcoming episodes, one of the episodes upcoming. Next would keep what? Cost of pilot training?
Yes, we can cover the cost or the eligibility,
Okay, absolutely.
or we can cover first eligibility and then the cost.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode or learned something from it. We weren't very funny in this episode. We just kept on talking, and it might have taken a lot on your attention. So if you are watching until now, thank you for watching, viewing, and subscribing. We really, really appreciate you. If you are an aspiring pilot, consider signing up for CNTAA on cntaaonline.in, or you can call us on 9930300426, where Captain Pankaj, Capt.Neha, and the team will look after you with respect to your training and all of the things. Once again, thank you.
Thank you for watching this podcast until now. This podcast was roughly about an hour long, and we spoke about a lot of different things to become a pilot. So if you have any question in the things we have spoken, feel free to let us know in the comment section or reach us out directly on our Instagram, and we will be happy to assist you. So thank you and have a great day. Bye.